Hi there, and welcome to your next session where I'm speaking to Laura Meredith of Ryedaura, a bookkeeping business. And the reason why I've invited Laura onto the session today is because I do rate the service that she offers very highly and think that with the questions we're going to discuss today, she's going to give you a lot of insight that is going to put your bookkeeping or financial aspects really in place and in context as you build your business. Now, that's whether obviously you're just starting out or you're further down the line and you're needing to tidy things up. So, Laura, thanks very much for being here today.
Oh,
And
thanks for having me, Tess.
it's a pleasure. So let's get straight into it, Laura. I think my client has probably a lot to do, as do we, and we want to get into this rich content. So the first question I have for you is, can you explain why bookkeeping is essential for small businesses and startups?
Absolutely. It's all about financial management and compliance. Without having a good bookkeeping system in place or a good bookkeeper, then you can't track your income and expenditure accurately. If you've got a bookkeeper on hand, then this is being done on a weekly basis, sometimes daily, depending on the size of your business. So you've really got great financial health because you can see it. You can see a complete, overview, 360-degree of your business at any one time. That it enables you then to make really informed decisions about your budgeting, your pricing, any investments you want to make in any assets, and obviously makes you aware of how you can grow, because if you know that you have a little bit of a surplus or things are doing really well, you can go out there and you can ask for that loan, and then you can grow to buy that new piece of equipment and so forth. And also with compliance, it's I can't speak enough about, efficient tax filing with HMRC. It's so easy to get this wrong. It's so easy to file things late and then, be penalised with penalties. HMRC have changed all the regulations this year, so they have increased their penalties. You get points, and those points can stay with you for a number of years. So it's really important to get that right, from the start. And if you've got the right foundation, you can build on it. If you've got the right processes in place and you're managing those finances, then you can build, and then obviously you can grow. Investors will then have confidence in you. Depending on what industry you're in, you may be looking for them in the future or right at the beginning. And if you've got all of that as your solid foundation, then you've nailed it and you're on the right track.
Fantastic. Thank you. So the second question is, what are the common challenges that small business owners face related to financial management? And how can a bookkeeper help address these challenges?
Okay, so I would say one of the most common things we see is cash flow. We have a lot of clients who say, oh, the money's tight, the money's not there at the moment. It was, but I don't understand where it's gone. We've even had some clients that don't really understand why what the figure they're seeing on the P&L is not what they're not reflected in their bank balance. It doesn't work quite like that. And to manage your cash flow efficiently, you need to know the numbers, which is kind of what I was saying about the financial management. If you've got the processes in place from the start, just like building a house, you build the foundations first, then your structure is going to be stable. And it's exactly the same, with bookkeeping, finance, accounting. With the cash flow, if you know your numbers, if you've got an employee, how much it's costing you, not just to pay them in their salary, but what are the invoiceable hours in the day? Have you got all of that in place? And if you have, and you know how much it's costing you to run your business per day, per minute, per week, per month, then again, that's a really good foundation in which to go forward. And it's a challenge that a lot of startups don't have, and sometimes more experienced business owners, because you go into business because you're passionate about what you do, not necessarily passionate about numbers. So I'd always recommend finding somebody that is passionate about numbers to come and help you with that side of things, so that you can concentrate on what you absolutely love, what you're really, really good at, and then allow somebody who loves the numbers side to carry on and make sure that that bit is watertight for you as well. But cash flow is, it's so up and down, and people don't understand when they first start out a business. They think, okay, great, I've got this first order, I've got this first invoice and it's been paid and things are looking up and I've got 2 or 3 more, but you've got to deliver on those. But then you've got to make sure, if it's goods and services, that you've got enough money to pay your suppliers and that is flowing at the right rate. We have clients where we've gone out there and provided figures to banks so that they can get international loans, so that if they are shipping in goods, then they can have that loan money there to ship them in, and then they're not paying that for 3 months later when they've actually received the money from their client. So it's just about really managing the money correctly, and that's one of the most common problems that we see. Also the reporting side, a lot of newer to business and also seasoned business owners don't really understand the financial reports that are being thrust upon them by their accountant or bookkeeper, powers that be, HMRC. Everybody sends these papers, these letters, and it doesn't seem to be written in plain English. So
I would imagine
again,
it creates anxiety, and people tend to sort of shove it under the table rather than deal with it. So yeah.
absolutely, we see such a lot of people that come to us and they are 2 or 3 years worth of accounts behind, and they don't know where they are, and then that has a sort of a domino effect. Your cash flows out and you're not sure how you can then, you're not being compliant, so you're being penalized with penalties, you've got fines and everything else, and it's just all getting a bit too much. So again, build your foundation, get your processes right at the beginning, and hopefully you wouldn't have those challenges.
Okay, so just tell me what P&L is, just for time.
Profit and loss. So yeah.
Fantastic. Profit and loss
Sorry.
statement. Okay. No, you see, this is the tricks of the trade, right? Where somebody's actually, you know the lingo, but maybe we don't. So thank you for
Yes.
that. So
Yes.
the third question I have for you is, how does accurate bookkeeping contribute to the overall financial health and success of a business?
But is actually the foundation. Because, as I say, if you know your numbers, your business can go far, because you know if you're actually profitable. And so many business owners don't. Many years ago, I was a cake maker. And just because I like to help people and I love to make cakes, I wasn't making a profit. And I knew my numbers. That was the worst of it, but I was doing it because I loved doing what I was doing, which was okay because, it was just a secondary business. It wasn't my main income stream. But when it is your main income stream, you've got to be able to make those informed decisions. Informed decision making is something that, if you've got a bookkeeper they know their numbers, they love the numbers of your business, then they can help you make those decisions. They can keep those financial records tight so that you know exactly what's going in and out at any particular time. You can then make those strategic decisions because you might say, actually, I need to buy a transit van. We've doubled on orders and we need to get them out. And, we haven't got the availability on the vehicle that we've got at the moment. We need to increase the fleet. But you wouldn't know that you could do that successfully and keep up with the repayments if you didn't know your numbers. So definitely we can help with the decision making because we'll have everything up to date and it'll be accurate. We can help with budgets and planning. So a lot of our clients who are nearing sort of more pensionable age, they'll be saying to us, actually, we need to increase the pension pot. How can we do this? Well, that's great, because you can do. If you're in month 11 and you've made a really good profit, why not look to put some of that into assets and B pension? So again, it's there for you at a time where you may need to sell your business or you want to hand it over, et cetera, et cetera. So we can help with all of that. Certainly be compliant, so we can help you make sure that you don't miss those deadlines with HMRC, and those pesky reminders become a thing of the past because they're pinging on our email essentially as opposed to yours. And then we give our clients a gentle nudge, just to make sure that they know that this is coming up, and we can obviously put those measures in place to make sure that they get everything filed on time in full. And I think it means that you've got investor confidence as well because you've got your numbers. As I mentioned about sort of trade agreements and things like that, loans, it's great because they will very often ask for so many years worth of books, and if you've got them and everything is pretty tight, if you needed an audit for those services, then you're going to pass. you know, the audit for that. You've got no penalty points with HMRC. You know, you've got a glowing record. You've got a real grip on your business. And then sort of, you know, that means then that you in turn get sort of that longer term sustainability. So, you know, you've got that solid foundation, your business is growing, and yeah, you know, every business experiences peaks and troughs, ups and downs. But if you know your numbers, you know then how to ride that wave, you know what to invest in, and what your capabilities are to then sort of stretch it a bit more to get things back on track.
And that's really the way to scale your business, because you've got the confidence, because you've got the clarity of the numbers. Yeah.
Yeah, know your numbers. Absolutely.
So, what are the consequences of neglecting proper bookkeeping practices for a business? And I'm sure you've alluded to some of it already, but just go in there and just really drive home what happens.
Yeah, so we see this a lot. You know, unfortunately, you know, we see husband and wife partnerships where they both work in the business and they come to us and they're really stressed, and actually they're at the end of the tether. You know, we very often have conversations with both of them separately, and they are at breaking point. They literally cannot take any more or another moment, and you can get far and far and far, you know, behind, and you think, okay, look, I'm not going to do my bookkeeping, it's fine, I'm not going to bother with it this month, I've got too much else on, I need to get the money coming in, then I'll worry about that. And then that kind of rolls into another couple of months, and if you're VAT registered, you know, then you've missed that VAT return. HMRC, you know, are on your case. Then you're having, you know, penalties, so the costs are going up. You may not then have the orders coming in as you want, and then it all kind of just snowballs out of control. But you know, it all comes down to then that financial mismanagement. Your records aren't accurate. You don't know whether you're hitting your budget or you've gone over your budget that you may have set for yourself, you know, on basic things, you know, everyday kind of costs. You know, your decision making is then tarred, because you're not able to make those accurate decisions. You're making snap decisions. You know, yeah, okay, I just do it, because you're at the end of your tether and you don't really know where you are. You've got the costs that are then sort of, you know, accruing with your suppliers, because you may not have paid your suppliers on time. They're then screaming at you and you're thinking, hang on a minute, didn't I pay that? But you've no way of telling whether what they've put on their statement is accurate. And we see on a monthly basis so many suppliers that we support with our clients where their statements are wrong, and we query it and we question it and we get, you know, them to take it off, because they're human too. Everybody makes mistakes. But if you don't know and they're telling you to pay £5,000 and you pay your £5,000, how do you know that all of that was owed? You just, you know, you don't. And you know, the snowball just you know, comes in, and then you've got no sort of, if you needed to gain an investor, you've got no confidence, because nobody's going to have confidence in you if you've not filed your returns on time. Companies house keep a record. Your record would then be tarnished because it would say overdue. You risk company strike off. And you know, we've seen this before, and we've just recently saved a company from company strike off because their accountant was not on the ball, and unfortunately, you know, they weren't giving them the right information, and then all of this just snowballed out of control, and you know, the business didn't look very rosy, and they are a business that require a lot of investors, and they sell the shares and so forth, and again, you know, you're missing those growth opportunities, you know, and it's just something that we all want to do in business. You know, we're in it to make it grow and really, you know, maximize that profit, and you can't do that. You know, business can make so many small tweaks and their efficiency can go right up, but how do you know that if you don't know your numbers?
Yeah, spot on. Spot on. Okay. So my next question is, what type of financial reports and metrics should business owners pay attention to? And how does a bookkeeper assist in generating and interpreting these reports?
Okay, so P&L, which is your profit and loss statement. You know, everybody has been thrust one of these in front of their faces. So if you've got digital software at the moment, then you can print one off, you know, within 3 clicks. And If you haven't, and you just do it at the end of the year with your accountant, they will very often serve you with your P&L. So it's really knowing your way around that. Everybody just looks at the P&L and looks at the bottom line. Did I make a profit? Did I make a loss? Is it in brackets? Oh, or is it not? And that's the basic that we are taught in schools. We're not taught about P&Ls and how to read these statements, and we really should be. A good bookkeeper will take you through that P&L way before it hits your accountant, way before it gets to sort of your end of year. You need to be looking at your P&L really on a month by month basis, and then you can look at your year to date for your financial year, depending on your company's financial year, whether you are sole trader or whether you're a limited and you have, the dates throughout the year. And a good bookkeeper will take you through that, monthly, and let you see that and see how you perform that month as a snapshot and year to date. If you're in something like serviced accommodation, these are liquid gold, because you can see at a glance how that particular property is doing, or how that particular element of a business is doing. If you work for a charitable organisation, or maybe a student union, for instance, and you've got events on, if you've got accurate P&Ls, you can see if that event was actually worthwhile doing. Would you do it again? And certain ones may be a loss leader depending on your company, but certainly a good bookkeeper will keep all the accurate records. They will track everything, and if they do that right, then you'll have the metrics then to be able to measure whether things were good or bad for your business. But the P&L, it really does summarize, the revenues, the expenses, profit or loss at the end of it, and just really gives you a good understanding.
It just feels like it definitely gives a good foundation, and it really makes sure that you're not making these thumb suck decisions. You're actually saying, is this best for my business? Is it the right time to do it now? And your bookkeeper is that kind of outside voice saying, doesn't look good, or maybe just go for it, but this is why, and this is what you've got to watch out for. So it's an valuable advisory person to have alongside your business. Right.
Absolutely.
So, yes.
I was just going to say, you also see things like balance sheets as well. They are the two main things that your accountant will show you at the end of year. And your balance sheet really is your snapshot assets, liabilities, and anything sort of, the main overview of your company. And if you are thinking of then selling your business, it's the balance sheet and the P&Ls, that people want to see, especially the investors. They want to see that as well. And again, your bookkeeper will manage all of that for you. They will make sure everything is registered. So if you buy a new transit van, or you lease it, whatever, it's all there down on paper for you, and everything is recorded accurately, which then sort of, you can have various cash flow statements in terms of like your budget versus your actual versus your forecast, and again, they're sort of monthly management accounts, which again your bookkeeper can provide, which then sort of acts more as an extended P&L. But again, for all exactly, the same reasons. But, I'd certainly say that the P&L is the most important, but a good bookkeeper can take you through all of those.
Perfect. Thank you. So in what ways can a bookkeeper assist with tax preparation and compliance?
Oh, the dreaded tax man. I don't think anyone likes them. Oh, no. We always call it a tax man as well, so maybe it should be a tax person nowadays. Yes.
Politically correct.
But yeah, so with your bookkeeper, with tax sort of prep compliance, it's the record keeping. It's that solid foundation right from the beginning. It's having, all of that data to hand. So for instance, my client I was talking to just a couple of weeks ago, their VAT return is not due till end of June. However, he knows that his business is quite seasonal. So sort of come this time of year, things start drying up a little bit. However, obviously that particular VAT period, there's going to be some chunky stuff at the beginning of it, but not so towards the end. So he knows when that becomes due, and he'll probably be paying in that, in July, because he's not sort of a deadline man, which is lovely. He likes to be sort of ahead of the game, that at that point things will have dried up a little bit. So this is where, your bookkeeper can come in really, really handy, or your accountant, depending on who you've got. But it's knowing those numbers, having those records. I was then able to say to him, okay, looking at what we've got now, this is what we're facing. So he's able to plan and make sure that he doesn't, spend too much
Mm.
over the next couple of weeks, because he's able to then say, okay, I've put that aside. We've had those orders come in, they've been paid now, so I've put my 20% away. It's there. I know I won't need it all, but it's there. And yeah, it's just about making sure that you've got that right planning in place, having clarity of those transactions. I was able to say to him when he questioned, oh, well, how much have we paid on this? And have you made sure we've claimed for that? And of course, yes, we have. And now, it's about making sure that everything is on top. He's on top of everything. We've got all the records. We've claimed for every little bit of that we possibly can, to make sure that we have that bill at the end of June as low as possible for him. But he knows what he's gearing up to if it was just done on sort of the sales and what we'd got in terms of purchases to date. So again, he's able to plan, and I think it's, you can track your expenses, you've got your reports and everything else, but that's where your bookkeeper can come in. They have all of that information to literally at their fingertips, and can give that, in however you need it chunking down,
Yeah.
and
And the
churning out for
experience to
you.
spot savings or benefits or just corners without cutting a corner, but just to make sure that you're not giving more than you need to or are required to by law,
Absolutely.
having everything.
Yeah, yeah. Everybody just, you
Yeah.
don't want to give us, too much over. You give what you need to give,
Mhm.
to be compliant. That's, why we're all in this. And it's about making sure that you do that, to the best effect and to, the best of your ability. And again, sort of, when you're veering towards year end, as I said earlier, you want to be looking in months sort of 10, 11, just to make doubly sure where you are with your numbers. What's the business looking like? Because if you are making a huge profit, fantastic, you're probably really busy, you think things are going amazingly, that's great, but then don't forget that you have to give some of that over for corporation tax. Whereas if you were then taking the measures to talk to, your bookkeeper or your accountant at that stage, you could be saying, okay, I'm going to put X, Y, and Z away for my pension. I'm going to buy these assets, and then it betters your company in the process.
For sure. Thanks. Right, so next, how does technology and software impact modern bookkeeping practices? And what tools do you use to streamline processes for your clients?
Okay, so technology is a big one at the moment, in terms of bookkeeping, accountancy. There's a lot of things on the market, and there's a lot of alarm bells ringing, because certain things maybe not do what they say they do on the tin. But that's okay. So by using a good bookkeeper, as I said it before, you will get that knowledge. But if you're just starting out and perhaps can't afford, a bookkeeper, maybe consult one for some training. We do a lot of it for new clients, people that are just starting out, and they're not really sure what to do, how to keep these records. Making tax digital means that you can no longer just cruise along with a spreadsheet. It's getting increasingly more and more difficult. So things, you've got Xero, you've got Sage, you've got QuickBooks and Free Agent. They're the sort of top, four main pieces of software that are on the market to do your books. Obviously, other ones are available. And depending on how you work, you may gel more with one particular software than another. I would always say, definitely, YouTube it, have a look, look at some videos, look at how these pieces of software work, and see which one you find is more logical to yourself. Then maybe, reach out to a bookkeeper or an accountant who does some training. Book yourself an hour or two session and get to grips with the piece of software that you've chosen, and they'll be able to show you how to use it accurately. But we're seeing automation is massive. Programs like Sage, QuickBooks, and Xero, you can send your invoices and receipts directly to there, which then means that The software initially, when you start sending them, won't necessarily code things correctly and upload them correctly, but the more you do, the algorithms are set within the programs, and it makes it a lot quicker and a lot easier. So no longer are you sat there, putting on 25 Amazon invoices. Actually, you've just emailed them as PDFs to the program, and all of a sudden the program has gone, boom, do you want to approve these? So that's streamlining it a lot. There is still a manual, input involved in that, in checking them just to make sure, but it's a damn sight quicker than having to then process them. You've got pieces of software such as Dext, and again that acts exactly the same. You just drag and drop or email to Dext your invoices, your receipts, pop them all on there, and then it will automatically then sync them to the program, ready for you to approve. There are lots of cloud-based solutions. These are all the programs that I'm talking about. They're all online. They're not things that you have to any longer have put onto your computer, taking up valuable memory space, especially if you're with Apple. So it's great. They all work from the web browser, or they all have apps. I had a client earlier who was using a Zero app in the field. And he was like, Laura, I've got 5 invoices to do, and I need to know which button to press. And he was there, he did them in seconds because he was able to. And then obviously that makes him getting paid tomorrow by the clients a lot better and a lot quicker, because they've got something. We're also seeing obviously all these pieces of software integrate with your bank as well. So gone are the day where you have to laboriously drop off to your accountant or bookkeeper all of those receipts, all of those bank statements. Yes, we still need them, but you can, the automatic bank feed means things are being done straight away.
It's time
And it
saving
doesn't.
in many ways, isn't it? Yeah.
Massively. I mean, if you're out in the field and you're buying a coffee every day, those receipts mount up, your fuel receipts mount up. The little things when you pop into Screwfix to grab something, they all mount up. And then you end up with a glove box full of receipts, and then you can never find the right one that you need. Whereas, with these pieces of software, you can snap a picture of it, send it straight to it, and your bookkeeper account has got it to make sure that your records are up to date, or if indeed you're doing it yourself. It simplifies it. It means that you can be more paperless, and then it gives you a fantastic audit trail. If HMRC did ever come knocking, you've got that. And with all of these as well, you've got your analytics because you've got your P&L within 3 clicks.
And I mean, so what I'm hearing there a lot is there might be a few new habits that have to be learned to get into,
Yes.
getting used to just taking that snapshot or doing these things, but it makes your life easier down the line. I've seen a lot of
100%.
people take the snapshot and throw that piece of paper away because once you've got
Absolutely.
it, you don't need to hold on to the paper. And I know with a lot of industries as well, like you say, guys out in the field or girls out in the field, you know, you're tired by the time you get home. You don't want
Yes.
to now go and do all that extra stuff. So if you can do it right there and then, it's less that is on the back burner that has to be caught up with. And for your bookkeeper these days with online, I would imagine you have access in, so you can go in at any point and check through things. So no one is dependent on the other. You can work independently in certain areas. So everybody's managing their time to the best of their own abilities.
Absolutely. And you might have, a fleet of people out there.
Yeah, yeah,
We work with some international companies, and, they're currently doing an event in a totally different country, which is fantastic.
yeah.
But their whole team, they are all making purchases, and all of those purchases are, being recorded, they're being snapped, and they're coming over to us. So we're processing them. And it's not a case of, they get back 4 weeks later or 3 months later, and then it's VAT return. And they're thinking, oh my goodness, I haven't got those receipts now. I wasn't going to bring them on the plane. I
Yeah.
disposed of them. No. So now they can dispose of them because there is that audit trail. They've been snapped, they've been uploaded to the software successfully, and then you've got a backup, and and it is secure as well. You've got the multi-factor authentication now. You've got backups. It's cloud based, so it's not like the old Sage where you used to get the CD-ROM, and if your computer went down, you lost all the data because you hadn't got a backup.
Yeah.
It's all backed up automatically, so you're not taking those backups anymore or anything like that. So yeah.
All very handy and helping us, but we've got so much
Mm.
to learn as we start
Yes.
using all these different things. So we're never out of the
Yes.
learning curve. And you've mentioned some really good examples there. You've touched on certain examples where you've helped a client, but do you have any particular success story that you could sort of really sort of explain where you've come in with your bookkeeping services and made a significant difference uh, for a business owner?
Yeah, so we took a business owner who was severely in debt with HMRC. They were 2 years behind, which we see quite often. 2 years seems to be the key. Facing strike off, books were completely out of date. It was really archaic, so we were back to paper. We had enlisted, Xero as their chosen software for the company. Nobody knew how to use it, but the accountant that they were using at the time had assured them that this was the right way to go, but with no training for the team. So nobody knew what they were doing. Everything was still on paper. In fact, the filing system was 3 drawers in the director's desk.
Ooh,
Priority number one, and then 2 other drawers with not really sure. It can go in there and wait until it rears its ugly head again. So, I mean, this kind of stuff, it scares me. Like, I couldn't be this disorganized, but they didn't really know where they were financially. The director had had a failed business previously. So when we got involved, you can imagine the stress levels. His wife wanted him back. She was missing her husband. He was spending every single Sunday in the shed, which is where he works, and trying to make head and a tail of exactly where he was. Even with the costing of his projects that he was currently working on, they were all being a little bit skewed because he didn't actually know the costs. He had no idea, the cost of actually a man day, because a man day doesn't necessarily just mean their wages. What about the rest of the company? So he had none of that. He had, obviously, everything was on paper, so it was very, very labor intensive. He was spending, I think, upwards of 40 hours a week just spinning around, trying to get his quotes out, his paperwork out, and sort of balance the books, make his payments. As I say, it was all paper, and he was still making check payments. Nearing retirement, and not really sure how the business was going to look after retirement, whether he was going to take a step back, or what, but he needed to act now because years were running out. Was, award winning with the company, but customers were shouting, suppliers were putting him on stop and saying, look, we can't deal with you anymore. He was at risk of losing his accreditation, and he'd no idea at what end of a P&L that he should have been looking at. So he was in dire straits. So we came in, we got hold of the paper. We did exactly, well, the things that I have just been talking about, really. We automated things. We got Xero up and running. We made sure everybody understood that. We then got a lovely system in place in terms of where he sends the receipts to, and how those look, and where he can upload them to and get them to us. So he never has a glove compartment full of receipts. Now I'm pleased to say that filing system, those drawers are full of things like staples and rubbers and pencils and all the lovely niceties.
what should be in the
Yes.
drawer? Yes.
Yeah, and snacks, I believe, that his wife now puts in there for him.
Yeah.
So that's really, really good. His profits have doubled. So we've been working with him 2 years, just going into the third year now, and his profits have doubled. His balance sheet wasn't looking very rosy at all. First year, I think it was around, over sort of 6-figure profit. And then obviously he's doubled that again now, which is fantastic. The assets are there, the fleet has all been renewed, and he was able to put £30,000 into his pension fund on year one, in month 11. And just because it was very carefully managed, and it wasn't all done overnight because, bringing a new bookkeeper can sometimes be a bit scary to people that have been riding the storm a while. And like you say, new systems, and it was like, oh my God, I've got to learn something new. But if it's done in baby steps and you're guided, it sometimes just then sort of becomes just, oh yeah, that's what we do now. That's better.
You quickly
Um,
forget how the pain of the past because you're having
yes.
so much fun moving forward and you've got clarity.
And
Yeah.
he's got his life back.
Mm.
So his wife and I, we speak, once a week because she asked me to make some payments and things. And, she's like, I've got my husband back. On Sundays now, that's their day. And they love it, and they have the time, and he's able to, he's now head of quite a few local charities in his area, which is just phenomenal because he's now able to have that kind of work-life balance.
Mm.
He's been able to recruit more people, which means that the pressure, the day-to-day pressure, has been taken off him. And yeah, he's still working hard, but nowhere near as crazy. It's efficient, he's profitable, and
Having fun. Yeah.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
he's loving it. Yeah, absolutely. So
Fantastic.
yeah.
Well, if that isn't a good story to listen to, because there were some really key pointers that you mentioned in there, we don't have to stay in the pain. And I think it's just knowing when to come in and bring in a service like that or adopt that kind of behavior in your business before it gets to crunch time or crisis time because
Yes.
nobody needs to get to that point, but as human beings we put it off, and invariably it's the bookkeeper that has to pull their hair out at some point. That's what you're there for, but we want to try and
Yes.
avoid this for anybody starting out or getting ready to scale their business. So, what advice do you have for a business owner who's considering outsourcing their bookkeeping tasks? How would they go about that process with a bookkeeper?
I would say first and foremost, make a list. So evaluate what you need. What does your business need? Write down your ideal. You may think that you need a bookkeeper a day a week. This may actually translate, if you've got a really good one, into about 2 hours a week. It may not be a day. Depends how efficient you are, how your processes are looking at the moment. So there are savings to be made there. But I would definitely say evaluate what your business needs. What are the volume of transactions that you've got, going in and out your bank? If it's something like 10 a week, you're not going to need many hours at all per month. If you're looking at upwards of 100 a day, then that can be the norm for some businesses depending on where you're trading. But definitely sort of evaluate what you want, and what it looks like to you at the moment. Do you need a bookkeeper? Do you need payroll as well? What do you want them to do on a daily basis? Where do you want your in-house team to come in? They may be in charge, of the sales ledger. You may want the bookkeeper in charge of purchases, bank recs, VAT, and so forth. So just really evaluate what you need, what's key to your business at that time, and then research. So don't go with the first provider that you speak to, for heaven's sake. Please make sure that they're reputable. Look for their experience. Have they got some positive testimonials? Are they proven reliable? Have maybe, it's word of mouth, somebody may know them. Look at price point and things. Does that match what your expectations are, as well? So really sort of research, speak to people as much as you possibly can and get a feel for them. See how they communicate with you. If you send an inquiry into a company and you don't hear back for a week, is that going to be the norm in going forward? And if so, and if that suits your business, then that's okay. But if you need an answer now, then obviously, that week, is that going to be as it is in going forward? And then sort of, push for those answers when you do sort of open those lines of, communication. Review your contracts. A good bookkeeper, a good accountant, will always give you a contract. They'll always give you that service level agreement to say, this is what we say we are going to deliver and how we're going to deliver it. Make sure that those metrics meet your desires and, they are exactly what you are looking for. and obviously pay attention to, the scope of their services, that matches what you're requiring. Data security is also a big one. You're handing over a lot of confidential information. Ask them how it works within their team. How do they make sure that things stay secure for you? And obviously, just make sure that you've fully read the contract before signing, what, your obligations are then, when you appoint them, what's your notice period and everything else. So really sort of, evaluate your needs, consider what you want as a business, research them, review the contracts, and then when you're working with them, make sure that you stay involved. And then, and obviously that means that you will then be involved and informed at all times. And if you can seek those recommendations, do, because, my client base has really been built on word of mouth.
Well, it's a high level of trust required to hand,
Yeah.
as you said, hand over that confidential information. So it is about doing your due diligence. And one of the bits of advice I've always given to people I've spoken to, whether it's looking for a bookkeeper, a coach, or whatever, it's like speak to 3 people at least. Get different viewpoints. You will find the person that meets your needs, but you have to know first, like you said, what you want before you go in. Even if you don't have the full picture, you're going to learn through those conversations. But you've got to kind of know where you're at. So that was really good advice. Thanks.
Yeah, and make sure that you've got, a bookkeeper that really has got your back, that has
Yeah.
got your best interest at heart. Key things to be listening to, you want to be paying as little tax as possible, just what you owe. And you need to make sure that they are, compliant in doing so, and that they are able to do their job correctly, and that they understand this, and even if you don't have a knowledge base of that, like you say, you'll learn through having the conversations, and you'll know
Yeah.
straight off. That sixth sense will kick in.
And I know that's not quite really on our questions for today, but what struck me here as well is when it comes to hiring a bookkeeper versus hiring an accountant, there could very well be a difference in what you're paying for that service. And do you need an accountant to be doing your bookkeeping? Um, or at what point do you decide that one serves better than the other, or can they work together? You know, what
Absolutely.
is in that area? You know.
Well, absolutely. So, bookkeepers and accountants can work together brilliantly. We can work together seamlessly. So, we've married with lots and lots of, of our clients' accountants. And where that is, it just opens that line of communication. So it means that you don't have to get involved. It also means, if you have a good bookkeeper, they will relay things in proper English terms to you so that you understand. So you don't have to be a financial guru to understand what on earth is going on with your business finances. A good bookkeeper will completely maintain that relationship throughout the year with the accountant. You can go to your bookkeeper for absolutely everything, and they can obviously escalate things if needed to the accountant. If it's something more to do with your tax preparation and your planning sort of for the end of year or in going forward, or even auditing services, that's where the accountant will sort of come in. But yeah, they can also a good bookkeeper can bring your accountancy fee right the way down, because all of the legwork and all of the books and everything are there. They're perfect. Everything's kept on top of, and a good bookkeeper will just literally hand your accounts to the accountant with a bow around them and say, there you go. At the end of the year, everything will be ready for them. And if they have a great relationship as well, they'll have made sure that everything is tickety-boo before you have to sign on the dotted line to sign those accounts off.
Sounds like important information to consider. So, how do you tailor your
Absolutely.
bookkeeping services to meet the unique needs and goals of different businesses? Because, you've mentioned many different types of businesses through this conversation, but it can't be one size fits all. Or how do you do that? How do you meet these different needs?
It's about sort of, initially assessing the company. So as I've said, for the other side of things, evaluate your needs. So when
Mhm.
you go to your bookkeeper, if you know them, that's brilliant. We have people that come to us and they know exactly what they want. And then we have other people that haven't got a clue. They haven't got a clue what they want. They haven't got a clue what they need. But it's our job really then, to do that initial assessment, find out more about your business. How does your business work? What kind of transactions, are you having within your business. What solution do you need? Because you may have a big team. We have clients that actually have a big in-house team, and then I speak to a few of those team members regularly, and then we make sure that my element is done, their element is done, and then it all works seamlessly. So when I speak to the director, probably once or twice, over sort of a 3-month period, then everything's all, up to date, everything's been invoiced, and everything is really, really good for them. So it's about assessing what kind of transactions you have, how your business operates, what industry you're in, what size of company that you're in, and how the operations flow. I love to know how things flow within the business, because then I can go, well, actually, we can help there. And I can make, suggestions for efficiencies, because it may be that somebody in-house could take care of something if budget is key. And then, we can take care of X, Y, and Z thereafter. So it's about that kind of initial assessment, and then making sure that you've got a customized solution that fits that business. Just because you are, in 3D modeling as a business, doesn't mean that the next 3D modeler that comes along is actually going to be the same as the one we're currently serving. We're here to serve, so it needs to be blooming flexible, and it needs to work for you. And don't be led down the garden path by other providers where they will try and say, well, you have to do it this way. No, if you do it this way, why can't they fit your needs and be a little bit more flexible? Find that solution that's key to your business, because that's going to save you time, it's going to save you money. Whereas if you've got to employ somebody to do it this way, to pass the information over, then that's not time saving, not
Counterproductive
cost
in many
effective,
ways. Yeah.
not at all. And it's about having that expertise in certain areas. I'm not an expert in all businesses. However, it's about taking the time to invest, and I will always go and research that particular industry if I don't know it. And I'll always tell the client, okay, I'm not familiar with your industry, so I'm going to need to know as much as you can tell me. And then sort of, just really just make sure then that we're making the right recommendations, that if we've got recommendations for different software, integrating things, looking at their existing systems, if there are any changes that need to be made. But initially what we would do is look at what you're doing now. And if things are ticking along, we would tend to try and look at, can we fit to how they're fitting right now, and then we'll make the efficiencies. Once we can really get a grip, see how it's running, then we can really make those, key suggestions, and obviously tailor then our service to them.
Certainly sounds like that is what has been happening from, a couple of pointers again earlier that you mentioned. There is definitely, it's not a race when you take a bookkeeper on, but it's about taking the time to put things in the right place so that going forward things are improving. So income goes up, the business can expand, or the business can maintain, or the person can get time back. So there's a lot of benefits to making sure that these financial activities are under control.
Absolutely. And it just, decreases the headache. And it means that, if you've got that regular communication and that trust with that, that person, that bookkeeper, then they have got your back, and you can rely on them, and that's what you should have. It shouldn't be, we see such horror stories, every month we see people coming to us and they've just had a really, really, really poor experience. But I think if you look back at sort of what we've said, about the advice and evaluating your needs, just make sure you stick to them.
Yeah. Don't think that the answers are all on the other side. You've got to hold your own vision and boundaries in place, but
Yes,
then bring in the service and the experience of that.
that fits to you.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So, what are some of the proactive steps business owners can take to optimize their financial processes with the help of a bookkeeper?
Oh, okay. So,
This is the last question. So,
gosh, I'm sure everybody's getting really bored now.
they could have paused anywhere along the way here to
Yes.
get a cup of tea.
Yes. So hopefully nobody's fallen asleep.
No, I'm
So
not.
yeah.
I'm
So
awake. Yeah. So.
so proactive steps. I would say obviously financial. Review your finances regularly as much as you can. And make sure that you are, scheduling, regular meetings, or even just touch points. A lot of my clients, they haven't got time to meet with me on Teams, Zoom, and video call. They may just give me a quick call in the car. That's absolutely fine. Or they may just send a WhatsApp message, and they know that they're going to get an answer. So they don't have to chase me. They know that they're going to get an answer. So I think, a proactive step, make sure you open those lines of communication, check in regularly on your finances so that you know that they're aligning with your goals, because you're going to be setting these goals. You know the metrics that you need to hit, the targets you need to hit. You may be paying bonuses and things to staff if they hit certain parameters. And then again, just make sure you are reviewing those regularly. Review your goals regularly, and if you've got a business mentor, somebody like yourself, then you're going to be asking and screaming at them, where's the P&L and how are things looking, etc., etc. She holds her head in shame. But at least if you've got a bookkeeper, you can say, oh my god, I'm meeting with Tess tomorrow and I need some kind of financial clarity. Where are we? And
Yeah.
again, they can provide that for you. It's going to improve your cash flow 100%, because you're going to know where you are. Also, the proactive step is making sure that you streamline your expense tracking, and just make sure that you've got the systems in place, so that you are tracking all of those coffees that you're having or anything else that the business is there, and sort of supporting. Automate anything that you can that is repetitive. There are a lot of pieces of software out there now. You've got AI, it's just really huge, which is great with writing. It's great with, copy. It's great with graphics. So there's a lot of things there that you can kind of leverage that automation. In terms of finance, like I mentioned, certainly leverage those software packages with those apps where you can literally snap, click, it's done. You can afford to lose that receipt, because you've got a good solid record of it. Anything like your data entry, that kind of stuff, just free up those time, that time, so that you can move your business forward and win that next kind of sale. If you've got, and you're regularly reviewing your finances, obviously you've got, you're monitoring that cash flow, you're staying compliant, and you've got those internal controls then in place. But really look at your processes, inside out, right the way from the beginning. Even just get something scribbled on a piece of paper at the pub, talking to your colleagues or your wife or whatever. Just take a pen, take the paper, and just do a bit of a flow chart, and look at the processes that you've got, and then you can be going, oh, that's a real sticky wicket. That's where I can, solve it with X, Y, and Z. And just utilize the tools, and seek some advice. Like you say, go and speak to 3 or 4 providers, and just talk to them. What can they do for you? How can they help you? We're here to serve, not to sell. So let us help you. So yeah, that's.
Well, that has been like a sort of a whirlwind tour through the world and the life of a bookkeeper, but also there's so many sort of golden nuggets in there just to think about. So, Laura, thank you so much for us being able to dig into your brain today and pull out all that magic. But what I want to say to you listening here now is, I'm sure you've made some notes. What I'd love you to do is do exactly what Laura said, and sit down and write down all those questions. Really get to see where you're at. Now, if you're just starting out and you're just a solopreneur on your own, there is no reason why you cannot do exactly what she said, but you'll just maybe have a shorter list, or it might be longer because there's thoughts of growth going forward. But just put your questions together, and then we can discuss that when we meet next. And the other thing I'd say to you is, if you were considering looking for a bookkeeping service, as Laura said, go find 2, maybe 3. 3 is really nice. And I'd highly recommend you add Laura as one of those 3, because I think from what you've seen here, this lady knows what she's talking about. I know she doesn't profess to know everything on this planet, but she's definitely somebody, from my experience, that is going to find out if she didn't have an answer. So yeah, good luck with this piece. It's a more heavier bit of content when we're talking numbers and finances and taxman and stress, but it really is, like Laura said, the foundation of the potential that your business in all its aspects has to grow if you get all of this stuff right in the foundation from the start. And if you're down the line and you're messy, then now is the time to get it right so
Yes.
that you can fly. So thanks for that. You can switch off now because we're going to say goodbye, and I'll speak to you next week. Thanks, and thanks, Laura.
Thank you.